call this meeting to order. All members are present except for Sunny tonight. If we could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Lynn.
Second.
Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Comments and requests from visitors. Do we have any visitors here tonight? Does not appear there's any visitors. And moving on to item 5 for the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve, or is there any item that needs to get pulled?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Kara, second by Lynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Action items. Item 6A, a resolution to accept a donation. So let me just get that here.
All these donations are from, it looks like Donors Choose and Amazon. Is that correct?
And they're for elementary STEM. I recommend the board approves this.
I move to adopt the resolution accepting donations.
Motion by Kara,
Second.
second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? And this needs to be a roll call vote.
Can be, sure.
Roll call vote. Jennifer?
Aye.
Chuck?
Aye.
Aye. Kara?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The donations are accepted. Thank you again to all the donors. It's very appreciated. Item 6B, a new position request.
As I said it in my notes, that typically we like to have a two meeting process for approving position. This position is for our secondary building. It is to help with the additional area of supervision, as we have attempted to spread our students out as far as we can during lunch. And so we're using a gymnasium, I would call it the South Gymnasium, for that position. And we would like to have this person be monitoring for us.
And is this position able to use any COVID dollars for this? Or is this general fund?
This would be food service.
Food service? Okay.
And our food service budget usually has extra money, right?
Sure.
There's no such thing as extra money anywhere in it, but our food service
It's a positive balance.
Yes, we can handle this position. It is temporary at this time.
Okay.
I move to approve the new position for the ROCORI secondary additional lunchroom monitor.
Motion by Kara to approve the position.
Second.
Second by Lynn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The lunchroom supervisor position is approved. Discussion items. Item 7A. Policy. So we did meet as a group, policy group, and then we did get some feedback as far as where we sit within the different area districts and such.
Correct.
And we seem to be right in the middle, and I think that's where we want to try to be for that. So that was probably the biggest piece of those, the class size policy. And as far as the balancing section, not a lot of changes.
Nope,
with
that's the process we use or have used in the past to help us make sure that we get balanced section sizes from Richmond to Rockville to Cold Spring Elementary. We haven't used that process the last couple of years because our principals have done a really nice job of working with families to try to get those sections as balanced as possible.
Any questions from the board on that? Otherwise, that would go back on the next meeting for a second reading. So, all right. Item 7B, which is just a second reading on the Title I Parent Involvement and School District Curriculum Instructional Goals policy. Any questions or concerns about that? Otherwise, next time they would be part of the consent agenda for approval. Okay, item 7C, the Minnesota State High School League second installment payment.
This is, again, for discussion tonight. As you know, the State High School League, at the beginning of, in the beginning of the year, had asked schools to be a part of a process to help them out of the financial trouble they were going to be in by not having state tournament revenue. And those were passed on to controversial payments, and our district was assessed an additional $9,000. We made the first $4,500 payment, and at that time when we made the $4,500 payment, we said that we would be watching and looking for movement from our high school league in a number of areas. One was communication, and I have to say that I've been very impressed with what Mr. Martins has done to keep districts in the loop for the information that's coming out to us. Secondly, superintendents have been asking for more representation on the board of directors, and there's currently movement to add 2 full permanent superintendents on the board of directors, so they would move from 20 to 22 board of directors, and we think that is really good movement. So
Can I ask
that's
a question?
Yeah.
How many superintendents are on that board right now?
There are 2, but they're not mandatory. They're not required to be superintendents. They just happen to be that way.
So out of a board of 22, there'll be 2 required superintendents and 2 individuals that
are
by
still
chance
on,
happen to be superintendents.
Yep.
Okay.
So I do see that as positive movement. And then opening our seasons for the winter seasons was starting January 4th was seen as a positive move. And then now, just in this last week, they have released guidelines for our state tournaments. And so it is open for discussion tonight, but I can tell you that as much as it hurts to have to spend more money, I would say come February 22nd when we have this on our action items that I will be recommending that we pay up on the last installment, just based off of the movement that we've seen for our students through the State High School League.
And with the tournament, are they expecting to get some sources of revenue with that? Whether that's
Yeah, if you see the second page of that document that I attached, they are now as revised as of December 3rd, expecting about $433,000 in revenue and then about $400,000 of tournament expenses. And that's largely due to that. If you've seen any of the I want to say the agenda for the state tournaments, it looks like there's going to be a lot of regional in the first rounds, and then having a smaller venues host smaller tournaments when it comes to the state. So, for example, the sport that I can tell you most, because I know most about, is wrestling, is that when it comes to the state tournament, the team tournament is only going to be 4 teams. So they're already going to have done some of the preliminaries in the regions out state. So they'll be able to keep their expenses down. And the individual tournament, for example, is typically 16 participants, and it'll go down to 8. So they are going to limit those things, and they're going to happen. The rest of it's going to happen. There's still going to be 16 people part of the state tournament, but when they get down to the final, there's only going to be 8 at the final venue because the other ones will have taken in super regions. So there's been a lot of planning, a lot of good movement.
And just as a refresher, is this money that we pay coming from any COVID funds?
I'll have to ask Beth, but I think this is a general fund expense.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
I do know that the head of the high school league also spoke at the MSBA convention too, so he has been more open with school board members, and there was a luncheon.
Yep, he did a lunch and learn session that I listened in on, correct.
Yeah, I had to miss that, but from what it sounded like, he was pretty open with
Yep.
school board members as well as superintendents. So they're trying.
They're trying.
I guess as we're talking about that, is there a sense of, you know, now that they're going back to some tournaments, of what next year's, you know, funding is going to look like?
Well,
Potentially?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Jason. I believe that they know they cannot count on schools to continue to up this kind of money,
Right.
to keep this going, and so they're going to have to find a balance of tournament income, sponsorships, and there may be some district help from each of the districts, but they know they cannot continue to operate on how they've operated before.
And what, do you know what their timetable is for the next year budget approval of what?
I do not know that.
Okay.
But I am following it. And
but
if
that
it comes up, I'll make sure that you're aware of it.
And that would be something that the new superintendents would be a part of the discussion, or that be, you know, are they going to add the 2 people to discuss what the budget's going to look like, or are they going to do the budget and then add the 2 people?
I don't know the order of that, Jason, but
Okay.
I'll find out.
Okay.
I mean, the rest of their board is basically school board members too. So it's not like we don't have a say through
Right.
board members.
Okay.
The board of directors at the State High School League,
Yeah.
it's
there's-
consisted of activities directors. There are some board members, some superintendents and principals. It's a wide variety.
Yeah. I mean,
How
so
are people selected?
They're selected through a region process. So a year and a half ago, I applied to be a part of the board of directors. Our region 8A, had a retirement, and so then 8AA, and so they took nominations. And at that time, Gary Revning, the activities director out of Monticello, was chosen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nomination process, very similar to, and then there's an election.
All right. Any other questions or items to address for that? Otherwise, that will come back for action next meeting. And that amount again is 4,300?
4,500.
4,500? Okay, 4,500. Okay, moving on to administrative reports, superintendent report.
So the first part of this, I want to do some recognition, and the first recognition is to Lynn Sherman for her 35 years of service to ROCORI schools and the ROCORI School Board, and through our Minnesota School Boards Association. So Lynn went through a little ceremony, virtual ceremony, on the 30th of January at noon, and where she was recognized for 35 years of service. Congratulations, Lynn. The second recognition is for Jennifer Bonsack for her phase 3 and 4 completion. So now Jennifer has gone through all 4 phases of her MSBA training. Thank you, Jennifer, for continuing your learning. And then Chuck has completed his phase 1 and phase 2 of the MSBA training. So again, I think it's important as board members that you continue to learn, and that is a great role model for the rest of our district. If we're up here learning, then we know that our students will be wanting that learning too. So I appreciate your time in those trainings. Legislative update is item number 2 on my report. There is a lot going on at the Capitol. I'm just going to highlight a few things, a couple of things. First of all, I want you to recognize is that our at the federal level, we need to be watching what's called the America Rescue Plan, and in that America Rescue Plan, there is $130 billion being earmarked for K-12 education. So I'll be watching what's called America Rescue Plan. That's part of the new administration's plan for schools. Here at our state, the progression has been a lot of introduction of bills, and right now they have moved from what's called overviewing or looking at those introduction of the bills into now hearings. And so our hearings have started, and this week there's actually going to be a very important hearing on it's House File, I just had that, 843. Thank you, Beth. House File 843. That is the 2% formula with inflation built in after. Mm-hmm. So this is something that superintendents and business managers, directors have been asking for all along. Is that in the previous, when you say we get 2% and 2% on the general formula, that's usually below what inflation has done. And so every year it feels like a reduction or a cut because it's not keeping up with the costs. And so what this legislation will do will be the 2% that we're hoping for, but then after that it will be based off of inflationary.
Well, and it's only fair. They used to have it built in every year when they did budgets, and then in the, I think it was about the 90s, they decided they would pull it out of school district funding because it always made their budgets look bad, that they were running into deficit before they even started putting bills together because inflation was built in. So they took it out, and it's like, well, we still have to pay it, so taking it out is just a trick to make your tax increases look less at the legislative level. And so they know they have to come up with money. Why not build it into budgets?
I do think, Lynn, you bring up a good point that the House tax chair said the other day, is that when they propose a balanced budget, because that's a requirement of the legislature, is they have to propose a balanced budget, is that balanced budget is not full of gimmicks and tricks. Mm-hmm. And you've highlighted one of those things that has happened in the past. So I do want to call attention to something that's very important to be continuing to watch, and that is the proposal to equalize our referendum, which we know is something that's important for us, and that C pushes, that's our Schools for Equity in Education, and there's about $95 million in that piece that will help us with equalize, basically. And Beth can correct me if I'm wrong. It really means that it doesn't matter what zip code you're in, that when you get funding, it comes back equalized, and it's not disproportionate because of the zip code you're in. Did I say that right, Beth? Perfect. There is some concerns, and I shared this with you last week, is that I'm concerned with the governor's proposal and the amount of money that's there, and can the state afford it? And so obviously when the governor proposes, legislature disposes, and then they try to hopefully find some compromise that will be beneficial for students. Probably the most concerning thing for us that we need to be watching for, and that we've heard a lot about, is how are we going to catch up kids from this school year? And there's some legislation being offered to help with summer programming, and we'll be watching for that coming here shortly.
I know that they've talked about that as being something that they're trying to push through the legislature now instead of waiting till the end, because otherwise how can school districts plan if we don't know if we're going to have that? So I don't know if there's, you know, the people that are trying to push it through are hoping to gain momentum, but I'm not sure if that is going to follow through on the Senate side.
I agree with your assessment there, Lynn. There is a lot of push to try to get summer planning in place, so that we can help target those students who need that extra help. But if the funding is there or not will be a different story.
I think we should remind people that since we have a senator from this area who is part of the majority in the Senate, it might not hurt to be calling him and texting him and emailing him that, you know, it makes a difference to our district if we get that funding ahead of time or know about it this spring and can plan for it versus waiting till they do the final budgets.
Yeah. Yeah, I will provide you all with Senator Howe's email address, and what we are looking for as a group of superintendents and school boards throughout the state on how we would like to see that, and so you can reach out to them with that wording. We get a lot of help from MSBA and MASA on how to make those calls and how to and the wording they're looking for, and I will definitely pass that on to you.
Well, lots of times legislators will say that, you know, if they get even 6-7 phone calls or 6 or 7 emails on a specific subject, that means something to them, because lots of times they don't hear from people about issues that are before them. So just all of us emailing him makes an impact, because then he realizes that we're serious about this being an issue for our district.
Yeah. A couple of other items that are being talked about quite a bit right now is the Teacher of Color Act. That's they want to increase the teachers of color in the state of Minnesota. Senate File 190 would allow schools to create an ALC. Now, we have an ALC, but on our ALC, currently you have to have a partner, and we do partner with Eden Valley Watkins on that. But Senate File 190 would allow districts to create an ALC without having a partner. And then Senate File 147 is something that's being talked about right now too. That is a report that goes to Pelsby, in which teachers who are in probationary that are dismissed, we have to report what college they came from. And districts would like to get those unfunded mandates off their books, and that would be one that we would like to get off of our books and have a report that we would like to not have to do. So those are kind of the highlights going on right now. There's gonna be a lot of action this week, and I'll update you again at the end of the week on anything that comes up.
Any questions on the legislative update? Right, item 3 or A3, COVID update.
Yeah, so I can report to you that our first week of school of in-person for K through 9 went very well, in my opinion. As I will all report that we had really high attendance at RMS with 96% of students reporting in. That's excellent. We watched our numbers both at ROCORI and the county. ROCORI schools go down the ROCORI area, saw it pretty stable, but actually at school, our case numbers and our quarantine numbers were quite low last week, so that's very good. I want to talk a little bit about testing. One of the items that we are going to continue to do as a mitigation strategy is testing. We had our second of our testing events last Thursday. And we're going to continue that on. So our next one will be the 24th, I believe it is. And then last thing I want to talk about is vaccination when it comes to COVID. I cannot express this enough. for you who are watching. If you get a Facebook message or an email message or any type of message with a vaccine for sale, it is not legitimate. Vaccines in the state of Minnesota are free. Do not do that. It's a scam. Vaccines in the state of Minnesota are free when your name is called, once you've gotten to the list, okay? So anybody who's trying to sell you a vaccine right now is selling you a hoax, okay? So I just want to make that public service announcement. Please be careful with those scammers and the vaccines. We are currently had several opportunities for our staff to be vaccinated, and we just got a message today, just before I came over, that tomorrow we'll find out some more information on another local clinic where other staff members will be able to have the opportunity to sign up. So by the end of this week, all staff members should have had the opportunity to, or at least signed up and get into the first dose of their vaccine. So that makes me feel very good that everybody's at least had the opportunity to get that for our staff.
Do you have a sense of what, like, because I think last time you said about 500 people, like, is it 50% are taking advantage of this, or?
I really don't have a really good sense, because once the state took over, we lost, once they registered through the state, then we don't know. Now, could I dig into my ASOP and see it was gone? Well, I could, but I don't know if I want to do that data dig. There is a bill, actually, and I don't recall what number, and I can't remember if it started in the House and Senate, but I saw it today, that a bill for you can't be fired for not being immunized. I looked at that, I was pretty shocked that somebody's personal choice to be immunized or not immunized could cost you your job, and so there was some legislation introduced that could not be part of your employment. All right, I think that's my report.
Just a question about the rest of the high school is back on the 16th?
That's correct. So our 10 through 12 will be back on February 16th.
And everybody's ready for that, and this whole last week has been a good preparation for?
I believe so. I was very impressed with how lunch has gone. I did my unannounced kind of walkthroughs last week, and the kids were going in the direction of the hallways they're supposed to, and I was again, getting middle school kids to follow those types of directions is huge, and sure enough, they were doing it. So I can't imagine why our high school kids can't do it.
Great. Any other questions for Brad on the COVID update? Okay. Upcoming events and activities. Looks like we've got Benton and Stearns here a week from Wednesday, and then Facility and Grounds that evening, and then another regular board meeting the following Monday, and then into March we've got policy meeting and technology committee meeting, and then the regular board meeting again. So anything on there that was missed or needed to be added or updated?
Just a reminder, Jennifer and Chuck and Kara, our technology meeting was moved to this Wednesday night.
Yep. Okay. All right. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you. And